Mom didn't even wait for the room to settle. She lifted her wine glass over Aunt Nora's long Thanksgiving table and dropped a sentence so sharp it cut straight through the noise. "I want everyone to know," she said, smiling too wide, "that the insurance money from your father's policy is going to Lily. Harper doesn't need it." Fork stopped midair. Conversations died half-finished. Even the candles along the table seemed to flicker like they'd heard something they weren't supposed to. "My name is Harper Lane. And that was the night my mother tried to write me out of my own father's legacy in front of my entire family." Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from. And when you hear the rest, I want you to ask yourself, what would you have done in my place? I've spent most of my life learning to move quietly through rooms my own family filled. Not because I'm timid, but because quiet people see everything. You learn that fast when your mother is someone like mine, Diane Lane, queen of control, professional martyr, and full-time worshiper of my younger sister Lily. Lily is 2 years younger than me, recently divorced and currently back living with Mom. In Diane's world, Lily is sunlight in human form. Fragile, special, endlessly deserving. I've always been the practical one, the you'll be fine child, the one who gets the responsibility, and the paperwork. Paperwork has followed me longer than any memory. When I was 19, Mom slid a stack of forms across our old kitchen table. Her perfume mixed with the smell of coffee. The afternoon light was harsh and unforgiving. "Just sign," she said. "It's boring government stuff. Updating records after your dad's promotion. Nothing important." There was a small logo in the corner, something I barely registered. I signed because I trusted her. I signed because saying no to Mom felt like trying to stop the tide with my hands. Years later, in a quiet Chicago apartment full of my own choices, I saw that logo again. Not on government paperwork, on an insurance document. That bruise never really faded. These days I work as a data analyst. My job is simple. Follow timelines, spot inconsistencies, and pay attention when people dodge details. Numbers don't lie. People do. That's why when the email came, I didn't ignore it. It was from my father's insurance company. Subject: beneficiary verification required. Policy #Earl 7824. Robert Lane, polite. Clean. Corporate. It asked me to confirm that I was aware of a recent claim and beneficiary update attached to my father's supplemental policy. A claim I hadn't filed. I remember staring at the screen, feeling that old bruise under my ribs. I went hunting. I pulled the scanned copy of Dad's original policy from my files. I keep everything. I compared dates, signatures, listed beneficiaries. The original policy named both daughters, Harper and Lily Lane, in equal shares. The new claim listed one name only, Lily Lane. The contact of record? Diane Lane. The signature at the bottom? Mine except not. It was the same signature she'd had me sign at 19. The same looping H, the same too neat L in my last name. A younger version of me, frozen in blue ink, repurposed for something I hadn't agreed to. I emailed the insurance company back. I asked questions. I used words like irregularity and unauthorized use of signature. They responded with corporate calm. The claim was now under review. The payout temporarily frozen. Pending investigation. 2 days later, Mom called. Her voice was bright and sugary, the way it gets when she's rehearsing. "Harper, Thanksgiving at Nora's this year. Everyone's coming. It'll be special. Your uncle, the cousins. I have some important news to share with the family." Important news. Entire family. Aunt Nora's big house, the neutral battlefield. I knew exactly what she was planning. A performance. A public script in which she got to be the sacrificial mother, generously giving everything to fragile Lily while painting me as the independent one who didn't need it anyway. So I booked my ticket. I packed light. One overnight bag, my laptop, and a folder on my phone labeled policy. Dad with every screenshot and email chain I might need. Aunt Nora's house has always felt like the opposite of Mom's. Soft lighting, big wooden table, mismatched mugs, and warmth that doesn't ask you to perform for it. When I arrived that evening, Nora hugged me so tightly I could feel her heartbeat. "Look at you," she said, pulling back. "Chicago suits you." In the kitchen, my cousin Jenna was hovering near the island like she always does, ears tuned to every frequency of family drama. Uncle Mark's laugh boomed from the living room. where football played too loud on a TV no one was actually watching. Only one thing felt wrong. Mom's hands. She kept smoothing her sweater, touching her necklace, rearranging the place cards Nora had already set. Her eyes flashed to the doorway every time someone walked in, like she was waiting for her audience to be complete. Lily came in a little later. She looked tired. Pretty as always, but with that soft, washed-out kind of exhaustion that divorce leaves behind. When she saw me, her whole face lifted. "Harper," she breathed, hugging me. "I'm so glad you came." She has never been cruel to me. Just easily steered by Diane's currents. A boat without its own anchor. We took our seats around the table. Turkey, potatoes, candles, polished cutlery. On the surface, it was every stock photo Thanksgiving you've ever seen. Underneath, there was a hum in the air, like static before a storm. The first crack came early. Over the clatter of plates, Mom said, too casually. "Well, I'm just relieved things are finally processed. It's been a long year." She said processed, the way some people say blessed. Jenna's eyes flicked over to me. "Processed," she mouthed. Mom changed the subject so fast you could hear the gear shift. Red flag number 1. 10 minutes later, Jenna leaned toward me, keeping her voice low. "Your mom seems off." I shrugged, but my heart was already beating harder. I noticed it too. Mom wasn't really eating. Every time someone mentioned bills, retirement, anything with numbers, her shoulders pinched up near her ears. Under the table, I unlocked my phone with my thumb. The email from the insurance company glowed back at me. Subject: pending review claim #RL7824. Robert Lane, status: under investigation. Beside me, Lily shifted in her chair. "Did Mom talk to you about money?" she whispered, barely moving her lips. I looked at her. "Why?" Her fingers worried the edge of her napkin. "She keeps saying she has a surprise for me. Something about a policy. I don't know anything about Dad's policies." "Do you?" "Insurance." The word hit the table like metal. Red flag number 2. Across from us, Mom launched into a soft-focus story about Lily's horrible year. She talked about the divorce without saying the word. About sacrifice. About how some people always seem to get the short end of the stick. Her tone was familiar. I'd heard it at 19 in a smaller kitchen over a smaller stack of forms. Guilt dressed up as love. Control dressed up as concern. That's when I knew. Tonight wasn't an accident. It was a reveal. By the time everyone had a full plate, Mom stood, glass in hand, eyes shining with that performative mix of sadness and pride she's perfected over decades. "Before we get too far into dinner," she said, "there's something I want to share. Especially about Lily." The room quieted. Uncle Mark muted the game. Aunt Nora's hand stilled on a serving spoon. "Life hasn't been fair to her this year," Mom continued, voice trembling just enough. "She's been through so much. So when the opportunity came, I did what any good mother would do. I made sure she'd be taken care of." She turned, smiling down at Lily. "The insurance from your father's policy," she said, projecting her voice so every older relative at the far end could hear, "will go to Lily. All of it. Harper has her own life. She doesn't need it." The words hit like a slap I didn't have to physically feel. Around the table, I saw reactions freeze. Nora's eyebrows shooting up. Jenna's fork pausing midair. My older relatives exchanging quick, sharp looks. Lily stared at her, stunned. "Mom, what insurance?" And then Mom made her mistake. She looked at me. "Harper understands," she said quickly. "She knows Lily needs help more than she does. Don't you, Harper?" She expected the same silent compliance she'd gotten from a 19-year-old girl signing forms she didn't understand. But I wasn't 19 anymore. I placed my napkin down, stood up slowly, and felt every pair of eyes follow me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Quiet is louder when the truth finally steps into the room. "Mom," I said, phone in my hand, screen still glowing with that subject line. "Why don't you tell everyone who signed the claim? And whose name you erased to make that happen?" The room went dead still. And for the first time in my life, it wasn't my silence that protected her. It was my voice that cornered her. Mom's fingers tightened around the stem of her glass so hard I thought it might snap. "What are you talking about?" she asked, but it wasn't confusion in her eyes. It was calculation. Panic wearing a cheap mask. Lily looked between us, her face draining. Mom, what claim? Across the table, Aunt Nora set her fork down with a soft clink. Diane. For a second you could hear everything. The faint whistle of the heater, the ticking clock in the hallway, the football commentator still talking on the muted TV. Every other sound at that table had vanished. I held Mom's gaze. The claim you filed on Dad's supplemental policy, I said. The one that changed the beneficiary to Lily only. The one you never told either of us about. Color bled from her cheeks. That's just paperwork. You're making it sound sinister, Harper. There it was. That word again. Paperwork. The same word she'd used when I was 19, and she slid forms across the kitchen table with a pen already uncapped. Beside me, Lily's breathing went shallow. I don't know what you're talking about, she whispered. I didn't file anything. I turned my phone so the screen faced Mom. The email glowed between us like a small, damning spotlight. Then maybe you can explain this, I said. I read it aloud, each line slicing through her performance. Dear Ms. Lane, we are writing to confirm your awareness of the recent claim filed on policy #Earl 7824, Robert Lane. As the listed secondary contact, we require your verification of the updated beneficiary designation, naming Lily Lane as sole recipient. A murmur rippled down the table. Jenna's eyes went huge. Uncle Mark leaned in, arms folded. One of my older relatives actually adjusted his hearing aid, just to be sure he caught every word. Mom tried to cut in. Harper, this isn't the time. I didn't raise my voice. I just kept reading. Additionally, we have flagged a previous signature on file for further review. Our records indicate the signature was submitted when you were 19 years old as part of a beneficiary update packet, but we have not been able to match that change to any documented request from you at that time. I locked eyes with her. That's the packet you had me sign in the kitchen while telling me it was boring government stuff. Isn't it? She slapped her hand on the table. Watch your tone. Aunt Nora's tone cut in, cooler than ice. No, Diane. You watch yours. Lily's chair scraped as she stood. Her voice shook, but it didn't waver. You changed Dad's policy? Without telling us? Without telling me. Mom shifted her focus to Lily like a magician redirecting a spotlight. Sweetheart, you've had such a hard year. The divorce, the bills, moving back home. I thought if I just arranged things you wouldn't have to worry. Harper is fine. She has a career, a condo, savings. That's not the point, Lily snapped, louder than I'd ever heard her. You used Dad's name. You used her signature. For me. Like I'm some excuse you can spend. Silence. Then softly, Aunt Nora. Diane. Did you forge Harper's consent? Mom's head whipped toward her sister. I didn't forge anything. I used what was already there. She signed those forms years ago. This is all just, you're all overreacting. I pulled up the scanned PDF on my phone, the one I'd downloaded from the insurance portal. The one I'd stared at 2 a.m. in my Chicago apartment, tracing the loops of my own teenager handwriting. Dad's original policy, I said, listed both of us. 50-50. After he died, you had me sign a routine update packet. The insurance company logged that as a beneficiary change request. Not equal shares. A structure that let you redirect the payout later. I zoomed in on the signature. This is me at 19. The same signature they're now reviewing because it doesn't match any accompanying request or explanation. And the new claim. I swiped to the next screenshot. A digital form, fields filled in with clinical precision. Filed 2 months ago. Contact. Diane Lane. Beneficiary. Lily Lane. 100%. Lily clapped a hand over her mouth. Uncle Mark let out a low whistle. So you used your kid's old signature as permission to cut her out now? That's wow. Mom's voice went high and brittle. I was going to explain it later. When things settled. When Lily was in a better place. When? When the money had already hit her account and there was nothing I could do, I finished for her. Her eyes flashed. You always assume the worst of me. No, I said quietly. I assumed you loved control more than you loved clarity. The insurance company assumed something too. They assumed you told us what you filed. That's why they emailed me, to verify a change I didn't know existed. Jenna spoke up, pushing her plate away. So if the company hadn't flagged it, Lily would have just gotten the money, thinking it was just how Dad set it up? And Harper would look like the greedy sister being mad about it. Lily turned to me, tears streaking her mascara. Is that true? You would have been cut out completely. I shrugged even though it hurt. According to the new claim? Yes. Mom reached for Lily's hand. Honey, listen to me. I did this for you. You needed a fresh start. Your sister is independent. Lily pulled back like she'd been burned. Stop using me as your shield. You didn't do this for me. You did it because you like deciding who gets what. Who is worthy? Who's fine and who's fragile? You've been doing that our whole lives. Nora leaned forward, her expression carved from stone. You used your eldest child's trust to sign something she didn't understand. Then you weaponized it years later to erase her from her own father's policy. That's not protection, Diane. That's manipulation. Mom's eyes filled, but the tears didn't look like remorse. They looked like anger at being cornered. I have sacrificed everything for this family, she hissed. I kept this house. I managed every bill. I took care of Robert when he got sick. And none of that gave you permission to rewrite his wishes after he died, I said. This isn't about whether you worked hard. It's about what you did with a pen when no one was looking. For the first time, guilt, not performance, not spin, flickered across her face. Lily sank back into her chair, shaking. I don't want it, she said. If any of that money is coming from a lie, I don't want a cent. Mom stared at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. You don't mean that. I do, Lily whispered. She looked at me. And I'm glad she stopped it before it went through. I don't want to be the villain in your little story orbit anymore. The room was heavy and still. I took a breath and sat down again, placing my phone in the center of the table like evidence in an open case. I didn't come here to ruin Thanksgiving, I said. I came because you invited me to a performance. I just decided I wasn't going to play my old role. Aunt Nora reached under the table and squeezed my hand. You did the right thing, Harper. Mom looked small suddenly, her shoulders caving. So what now? She whispered. The claim? It's frozen, I said. Under review. I told them I never agreed to the changes the way they were recorded. They're going back to the original documentation. Uncle Mark cleared his throat. Which, if I'm remembering right from that day in the lawyer's office, was pretty clear. Robert wanted both his girls taken care of. Equally. Everyone remembered that day. The cheap coffee in paper cups. Dad's tired smile. The way he kept restating it, like he knew someone might try to interpret his wishes later. Both my daughters. Equally. Mom stared at her plate. For once she had no speech ready. I didn't gloat. Not out loud. Revenge doesn't have to sound like triumph. Sometimes it just sounds like the truth finally refusing to sit quietly in the corner. I'll talk to the insurance company, I said. I'll send whatever they need. If they follow their own rules, they'll honor the original policy. If they don't, I'll escalate it. But either way, this won't happen in the dark. Not again. Lily nodded, wiping her face. And I'll call them too. I'll tell them I didn't agree to be made the only beneficiary. I won't be part of this. Around the table, no one rushed in to comfort Mom. No one called me dramatic. The loyalty she'd always counted on had shifted, quietly but unmistakably. For once, the room wasn't bending around her story. It was facing mine. The days after Thanksgiving felt oddly light. Not happy exactly, but like a room after someone finally opens a window that's been painted shut for years. I flew back to Chicago with the same overnight bag, the same winter coat, the same laptop. But something was different. The 19-year-old version of me who signed anything to keep the peace wasn't in that body anymore. A week later, the insurance company called. The representative's voice was professional, careful. They'd completed their review. The updated beneficiary structure had been rejected. Without clear consent from both daughters, they were reverting to the original instructions on file. The payout, when it came, would be split evenly. Transparent. Documented. Exactly as my father intended. The man on the phone apologized for the confusion. I almost laughed. The confusion, I said, was never on your side. That night Lily called. I heard the weight in her breathing before she even spoke. I talked to Mom, she said. For real this time. Not with her telling me what to feel. I told her I was done letting her use me as an excuse to hurt you. Or bend the rules. How'd she take it? I asked. Badly, Lily said. Then. But she heard me. And she knows I'm not taking her side on this. Not this time and not like this. We were quiet for a moment. Thank you, she added softly, for telling the truth before it swallowed us. Our relatives reached out too, not with gossip, but with a kind of tired disappointment aimed squarely at Mom. Some gave her space. Some told her directly that she'd crossed a line you don't cross with family. Eventually she sent me a message. Not quite an apology. More like a confession she didn't know how to wrap in pretty words. She said she hadn't realized how wrong it was until she saw everyone looking at her like a stranger. That she'd only ever known how to show love by controlling things. I didn't respond with a long speech. I just texted back. Love without honesty is control. I'm not going back to that. I didn't offer forgiveness. I didn't offer war. I offered distance, and the chance for her to sit alone with the consequences she'd spent years pushing onto everyone else. The lie didn't win. And for the first time in my life, neither did she. So if you're listening to this and some part of it feels uncomfortably familiar, if you've ever been the responsible one, used as a signature, a scapegoat, or proof that someone else deserved more, know this. You're allowed to bring receipts to the table. You're allowed to say out loud, this isn't what was promised. And sometimes the quietest revenge isn't screaming, or cutting people off, or burning everything down. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply refusing to let the paperwork tell a story you never agreed to. If my story hit a nerve, tell me in the comments what part felt closest to your life. And if you want more true confessions like this one, make sure you're subscribed, because there are a lot more families out there hiding things in the fine print.